Words and expressions commonly misused. From the Elements of Style by William Strunk, we're on D's. So data or data, a plural like phenomena and strata. These data were tabulated. So data is plural. What is the singular of data? Let's look it up. Singular of data. Datum. Datum is so rare now in English that people may assume data has no singular form. Many American usage communities, however, use data as a singular, and some have even gone so far as to invent datums as a new plural. I've rarely seen datums, so let's not get too far there. But yeah, datum is what would be singular. Um, but yeah, I mean, that's extremely rare. Usually, when you're talking about data, you're talking about data sets, which means a lot of different numbers, a lot of different reflections, um, representations of information. So it's going to be plural. So these data were tabulated, as opposed to this data is tabulated, or this data was tabulated. These data were tabulated. So that's the crucial point. Um, Dependable, a needless substitute for reliable, trustworthy. Uh, I mean, I think this is another axe he's grinding. It's kind of funny. You just picture him like spitting on it. I spit on you. Dependable is a needless substitute for reliable, trustworthy. It's it's a synonym. Different than. This is different than. Not permissible. Okay, so this is about grammar. So he's saying that different than is not permissible. It's not a grammatical structure. That makes sense. You can substitute different from, other than, or unlike. This is other than this. Um, in dialogue, if you're quoting dialogue, it's fine. Obviously, all of this stuff, if you're quoting dialogue, is fine. Um, there's some like Angela's Ashes. He doesn't capitalize his eyes to show that he was young in thinking and young in age, and just his sophistication level was low, and so he doesn't, but all those you would quote. Um, so the letter I, like I went to the store, like he doesn't capitalize those. Um, but if you're quoting a character, the character can say different than all day long that you're quoting. But if you're trying to write a quality academic essay, here it's saying, you know what, it's not permissible. Substitute different from, other than, or unlike. So divided into, not to be misused for composed of. Yeah, divided into literally means divided into, like cut pieces, um, divided into parts. Composed of means comprised of. It means um, you know, North America is composed of three countries: Mexico, United States, and Canada, I believe. Forgive me if I'm wrong, geography pros. But as far as I remember, composed of, comprised of. The line is sometimes difficult to draw. Doubtless, plays are divided into acts, but poems are composed of stanzas. Um, Poems are composed of stanzas. That makes sense, right? Plays are divided into acts. So let's clarify that. So divided into, so they're separate acts, um, and but poems have stanzas, which they're still a part of the whole poem. It's kind of an interesting distinction that he's making here. And the line is indeed sometimes difficult to draw. I think what's most important is that you're very clear to the reader. So if you're saying, plays are composed of acts, you know, poems are divided into stanzas. Uh, that could still potentially make sense. Both of those sentences could still potentially make sense, but they just seem a little bit stronger when you're saying plays are divided into acts. Poems are composed of stanzas. Composed of, comprised of means, these countries form the continent of Africa. These countries form the continent, are composed of, Africa is composed of the following countries, colon, and then you've got a list. Um, not Africa is divided into the following countries. I guess, but that would focus on the attention of the dividing. So I guess if it's all about the venue, right, and what you're talking about. So if you're talking about the dividing of those countries and how three of those X number of countries, three of those 30 countries or 20 countries, um, uh, you know, um, got won their independence or got divided up, with regards to land and in borders and boundaries, etc., geographically, then you might want to mention the word divided. You know, but so a lot of it, again, I know, it kind of seems like a cop out, but it really has to do with the venue. If you're going to talk about how these countries were apportioned out and the specific events, like what war of independence that gave this country their independence, then maybe divided into makes sense when you're talking about Africa has been, over the years, Africa has been divided into these countries, and you've got a list, and then you're talking about the independence wars, etc. um, um, Whereas if you're talking about the totality of a continent like North America, South America, um, Australia, which is a country and a continent, which I remember from back in the day, then you might want to mention composed of or comprised of. So don't, contraction of do not. The contraction of does not is doesn't. So we don't go to the store on Wednesdays, period. We only go on Tuesdays, period. So don't. Due to, he lost the first game due to carelessness. Incorrect use related as predicate or as modifier. It's saying incorrectly used for through or because of or owing to. So he lost the first game due to carelessness. He lost the first game because of carelessness. So this is saying it's incorrectly used for that. So let's look at correct use. Incorrect use related as predicate or as modifier to a particular noun. The invention is due to Edison. This invention is due to Edison. Loss is due to preventable fires. So this is interesting. This comes up a lot. This is one of those like, oh, this person's being a grammar Nazi, etc. But it's still pretty interesting. It's still an interesting distinction that he's making. So this invention is due to Edison. Loss is due to preventable fires. I actually think that this is misused a lot. I think most people, and in fact, in the current lexicon, the current usage of the phrase due to, I see it mostly in this context. He lost the first game due to carelessness. I rarely see it in this context. But again, maybe I'm not playing in the hallowed walls of hallowed people with brilliant, amazing communication skills, just in the everyday streets. Not to kowtow at all, but I don't see it. So this invention is due to Edison. That makes sense though, right? This invention is due to Edison. These losses were due to preventable fires. So related as predicate or as modifier to a particular noun. So due to something specific. But it still comes up a lot in terms of use for through or because of or owing to. But yeah. All right. So hopefully this is helpful with our D's. And our next video, we'll go over E's and F's. Thank you very much.